entertainers in the building.
Yeah. Already the show goes on all night till the morning. We dream so long. Anybody ever wonder when they would see the sun up? Just remember when you come up. The show goes on. Alright, already the show goes on all night till the morning. We dream so long. Anybody ever wonder when they would see the sun up? Just remember when you come up. The show goes on. Have you ever had the feeling that you was being had? Don't that shit that make you mad? They treat you like a slave, put chains all on your soul and put whips up on your back. They be lying through they teeth, hope you slip up off your path. I don't switch up, I just laugh, put my kicks up on they desk, unaffected by...
Thank you guys for joining us for another episode of State of the Jungle with Malik Wright, presented by First Star Logistics. I'm your host, Malik Wright, joined by my co-host. As always, we've got Logan, we've got Evan, and we've got a nice show. We got some stuff that we need to talk about. But first, before we get into all the discussion, make sure you guys give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content from the First Star Logistics studio. Boys, listen, the topic of today's show is Joe Burrow primed for an MVP season? You know, we've made it through the part of the offseason where doctors on Twitter say Joe Burrow will never, and I mean never, be the same again. We made it through the part of the season where everyone is panicking about the wrist. Everyone is panicking about the draft picks. Everyone is panicking about the free agency acquisitions. And now, guys, ahead of us, all we have to do is focus on ball. Right? So I think when you look at every single obstacle, if you will, that the Bengals, you know, I guess we're facing heading into the offseason and now obviously heading into the offseason program, it brings up the question, is Joe Burrow primed for an MVP season? And I say this because one can make the argument that this is the most talented offense that Joe Burrow has had since he became a member of the Cincinnati Bengals. One can make the argument that this is the most talented offensive line Joe Burrow has had since he became a Cincinnati Bengal. So it now brings us to the question, is Joe Burrow primed for an MVP season? I have my thoughts on it. I certainly feel as if he could be, but I'm going to yap a lot. I talk a lot. I have a tendency to talk a lot. So, Logan, I'll let you open us up.
Yeah. I think, just the short answer is yes. We all know what Joe is truly capable of and how talented he really is. But if you really want to get into, some more detail about it, when you look at the last 5 MVP candidates, Lamar, Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Rodgers, Lamar Jackson again, obviously all those guys had great years. They're very different players. They had their great years in their own respective ways. But if you look at their average stats of those 5 people, again, it's not the longest sample size. It's 5 years, those 5 great players. If you look at their average of all of their MVP seasons, it comes out to 4,610 total yards, 41.5 touchdowns, nearly 7 interceptions for an MVP season. That's the average MVP season over the last 5 years. If you look at the 2 years that Joe Burrow has had healthy in the NFL, those 2 years he averaged 4,745 total yards, 38 touchdowns, and 13 interceptions. So when we're going to act like if Joe Burrow can be an MVP, he's already played like an MVP. He just doesn't have a trophy to show for it because people had better years than him that year. But that doesn't mean he hasn't played like an MVP. Then you want to get into the whys. Everything you just said, the offense is still there. The offensive line is better. But I think one of the most underrated things too is we'll probably see a slight scheme shift of what we kind of seen last year with Browning, with Pitchard kind of taking over. So that should kind of help make him even more efficient and cut down on the turnover. So it's just simple. We've already seen him play like an MVP. It's just he's been unlucky, and the people he was competing with had amazing years as well. So yes, Joe Burrow can easily be an MVP. He's got everything. We know he's talented. He's got the weapons. He's got everything right in front of him, and we know he's capable of doing it. He just has to do it. He obviously got to get a little bit lucky as well.
I agree. I think a lot of this the football season is centered around luck and who can stay the healthiest. Obviously, we've seen some of the not so best teams win, right? When it comes down the stretch, it all is about health and who can stay healthy and who can be there for their team in those spots. So, Evan, what are your thoughts on if Joe Burrow can have an MVP like season, or is he primed for an MVP like season?
I definitely think Logan made some good points that the offense is going to probably have more easy buttons than it has in the past. Saw a little bit of that under center game last season as Jake Browning got in there, and even a little bit in the 49ers and Bills games. But as much as I think there's an argument that yes, with the weapons that he has, it may be the best supporting cast he's ever had, and that's no slight to Tyler Boyd. That's just a speaking to the level of tight end that a Gesicki hitting his ceiling can bring to this offense compared to an Uzoma or a Hayden Hurst to this offense. That speaks to the level of weapon he can be, as well as Jermaine Burton, though I don't think he'll be as good as, Tyler Boyd maybe right out the gate. I do think he offers a different skill set, a more vertical skill set, and a better athletic profile than Tyler Boyd does. So I think he's going to be able to fill that role pretty nicely. But I also think when we consider coming back from the injury, I know the offensive line is obviously improved by adding Trent Brown, by adding Amarius Mims. But there's also a lot of turnover on this offense, right? From the wide receivers, and we know how a contract situation affected Jesse Bates when he was playing, right? Maybe we see more of the same with T. Higgins, with just a new starting tight end, a new starting wide receiver. Maybe T. Higgins having any thoughts about the contract and stuff going on. Offensive line that is still learning to play together and even may suffer injury, because you don't see often that there's a lot of offensive lines that stay healthy year to year, and they all stayed healthy last year. So it just stands to reason that this year you are going to see some injuries. And on top of that, Dan Pitcher taking over. Obviously, this is a kind of brain trust offense where Zach Taylor's running a lot of the ship, and Dan Pitcher is doing the same thing. But I think there is a reasonable expectation that the Bengals offense might take a little bit of time to really hit their groove. We saw this with other offenses too, where like the Ravens, and I know the Dolphins hit the ground running, but when you're talking about this is going to be quarterback coming back from injury, incorporating new guys, you've got kind of a new scheme you're actually running compared to what you used to, not in the sense that you're going to be revolutionizing anything or bringing anybody new in, but just the under center stuff, right? The stuff that you're going to be dealing with that they wanted to implement but just couldn't because of the Joe Burrow calf injury last year, where they weren't trying to ask so much of him to be able to be mobile. But it seems like he's been able to do his off-season training the whole time, put on good weight, make sure he's strong and healthy, and he hasn't been out of just the staying in shape stuff, right? The lifting, the running on the treadmill. He hasn't been restricted from doing that like he has in past. So I think that'll help him hit the ground running better. But I see so much change coming in this offense, and I wouldn't be surprised to see Joe Burrow have a really, really great year, but still fall just short of that MVP conversation just because of how much is in flux there.
I got to tell you, this show is absolutely unhinged. I wish that we had cameras all in the studio. If you guys could just see what I just saw, what me and the guys just saw. Props to Evan for keeping it together. But you guys should have seen our producer, Marissa, climbing under a desk just now. Yo, this show is great, man. Thank you, Marissa. You are the highlight of the show, and I wish the people got it on camera, but that was great. That was awesome. Anyway, yeah. What the hell was I even saying?
Joe Burrow MVP.
Okay, yeah, Joe Burrow MVP season. I definitely could see Joe Burrow having an MVP-like season. I think he's a media darling. I think the NFL loves him, obviously, but I think the more important part of this whole thing is I think Joe Burrow, when we do talk about the weapons that he has around him and the success that these guys could have potentially this season, I think it's real. I don't think there's anything fluke about it, guys. Now, I know people are saying, well, you're just biased and you're just saying what you need to say to hype. But no, it's not that. I think that this offense has every bit of ingredients to have an explosive offense. I think Jermaine Burton's addition is going to be huge, is going to be massive. And we're going to talk about that at some point during the show. But I really think Joe Burrow is going to be a true I really believe Joe Burrow is going to have a true difference-making type season for the Cincinnati Bengals. And I'm excited for it. Evan, what else do you think can lead to the Bengals having Joe Burrow having a really good season? Because obviously I said the touchdown pass is like 40 plus some odd touchdowns I think he could have. But what are some other ingredients you think could happen to have this team have success?
I think finding more consistency on the offensive side of the ball, and not in the sense that we know what these guys can all do on any given play, with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase almost creating instant touchdowns sometimes. But it is fair to say that there are times where they come out and they go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, and then they leave a great touchdown drive, and it's like, okay, they've got their rhythm back, they're rolling, and then suddenly, it's another 3 and out, or they get a first down, but then they get out on the next series of downs. So just finding more consistent offense, being able to get more in the middle of the field, pick up some of these points from a weapon you have in a kicker like Evan McPherson, just finding ways to continue to gain these positive yards, and not trying to slander Joe Mixon at all or anything like that, but he was not over yards over expectation in terms of rushing last year, despite facing a heavy number of light boxes. So the hope is that Zach Moss and that Chase Brown and a more versatile Bengals offense that is incorporating more of the under center stuff throughout the year, added with the Joe Burrow and receiving threat that you have, I definitely think those are all reasons to believe that Joe Burrow could definitely have that year. And that would be stuff that I think would help make the case. Obviously, MVP is very narrative driven. So if the Bengals have a late half of the season surge from weeks 8 on, where this offense really starts clicking, which again, I said it might take some time the first few weeks to kind of establish a rhythm. But if week 8 on, they look like one of the best offenses in football, they end up sitting atop of the division, picking up some key wins against teams like Baltimore, like Kansas City. That's definitely going to be huge in terms of their resume for building the profile. I think a lot of people are just waiting to see what Joe Burrow looks like once he actually touches the field. Obviously, everybody has an opinion on what that's going to be, and I think that paints your picture of your projection on the Bengals a lot, right? Is what you think he's going to look like. I think a lot of people who are optimists believe he's going to be himself. That's going to lend itself to making that MVP case. But there's other people. I know people are getting a little upset with certain podcasts that have been a little bit negative on the Bengals or Joe Burrow, but I think that's all about how you think they come back from the injury board and anything else. So just more consistency on offense, just down to down in general, I think would really go a long way in helping this offense become elite.
I agree. I agree with all the sentiments here regarding Joe Burrow having an MVP-esque like season. A lot of it's going to depend on health, obviously. Yeah. That's been the one caveat, the one knock on Joe Burrow the last couple of years. And I think the one awesome thing that we haven't talked about enough when it comes to Joe Burrow is the guy going to start the season healthy? Is the guy going to start the season healthy? I mean, it feels like there has been a curse, a spell put on the Cincinnati Bengals, like one of those Chucky Ade Dubui Timbola type curses, like, hey, you're not going to start the season healthy for the first 4 years of your career. God. And it's like, what the hell? Like, why can't this guy seem to, put it all together? And I think there's a myriad of reasons, obviously, behind that. But if the Bengals are able to start fast, I think that the only team that could be in the Bengals' way is themselves. And that's no disrespect to any other team, but I really believe the Bengals can match up with any team in the National Football League. I think a lot of it's going to come down to health and dependability, honestly. So that brings me to the next part, which is who takes the big jump? Who takes the big jump for the Cincinnati Bengals in 2024? Who's that going to be? Because I'll tell you right now, I'm not going to even single it to a specific person. I'm going to single it to a specific position group. And while you guys are here, do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on post notifications so you guys don't miss when we go live or upload content from the First Star Logistics Studio. Remember, every single time we go live, it's also simulcasted on the First Star Media Group YouTube channel. On the First Star Media Group YouTube channel, you guys can catch In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, Bengals on the Brain with Joe Goodberry. And if you like me enough, if you think I'm cool, if you think I'm awesome, if you like me and the guys, you guys can catch State of the Jungle every single Wednesday, 7 p.m. Same crew, same time. Danny, we miss you, by the way. But that being said, who's going to take the next big jump, right? That's the question. For me, it's very, very simple, and I'll tell you who it is. It's the defensive line. Yeah. I need the defensive line to step up this year, okay? Too many additions have been made to the defensive line to see the defensive line underperform. I have too much faith in a guy in Marion Hobby to get this defensive line corrected. So when I look at guys on the defensive line, guys like Miles Murphy, guys like Sam Hubbard, guys like what's his name? Sheldon Rankins, BJ Hill. The list goes on. I'm not going to say too much about rookies just yet because I'm not looking at the rookies. Yeah. Veterans, I'm looking at you. I need the defensive line to step up as a whole because guess what? The goal should be for the Bengals to make sure they're doing enough on the defensive line, getting pressure at the quarterback, stopping the run. you want to maximize the reps that you can get out of some of these guys, right? You want to make sure that guys like Trey Hendrickson are getting the proper breather on the side. You don't want to have this guy coming off 4 or 5 times out of a game holding on to his ribs because he got hurt and this guy's just getting
long year.
Absolutely ragdoll. It's a long year with another added game, and guess what, guys? They're talking about adding another game at some point in the next couple of years. The name of the game for I hate to even say what I'm about to say. The NFL, the Bengals specifically, you guys need to operate in, maybe adopt one of your own, what's it called? Load management, but not missing games, but more so missing drives, essentially, to where you can take some reps off for a guy like Trey Hendrickson. So there is a guy that specifically I'm looking at that I'm expecting to step up this year. My guy, BLXS. Beat said it in the comment section. Joseph Asai, this is for you. This is your opportunity to step up to show the National Football League that, hey, even though I was picked in the 3rd round with a high draft pick, and I may not have shown everything that I'm capable of, maybe this is the year you step up. Maybe this is the year that Joseph Asai takes that leap. Maybe it is, right?
So.
One thing I'm looking for is I'm trying to see who's going to take that leap from the edge standpoint. We need more juice on the defensive line, but specifically the edge rushers. I think the Bengals did a very good job on the defensive tackle room, the interior of the defensive line, but I need to see more out of these edges. Our pass rush should not become non-existent when a guy like Trey Hendrickson's off the field. Can we all agree to that?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, with that being said, Bengals, the defensive line has been an Achilles heel. Yes, it was last year. You wanted to recreate the magic that you had the year you went to the Super Bowl. You did your best to try to incorporate that. Okay, what now? Evan, what are your thoughts?
Man, I'm looking right at you. Same thing you said, where it's Miles Murphy, in my opinion. That's the next guy who's going to take this jump, and I think he already started to do that. I know people were less than enthused with the numbers last year, and I don't think that's any fault of his own. I think we talked about when he was selected that he was going to be a project that needed to be molded a little bit, that needed to develop a pass rush moveset that had all the physical abilities to become a great pass rusher. And the first 7 weeks, he did not play much. 54.9 PFF grade was 100th out of 123 defenders on the edge. 58.5 PFF pass rush grade was 88th, and he had a 9.1 pass rush win rate. But then week 8 onward, we remember there were a lot of articles talking about how he had really dedicated himself well, was coming along, and then he was rewarded with more snaps out of the bye, and he did improve where he ended up with a 65.9 pass rush grade, which was 58th, almost a 30-spot increase, and a 13.6 pass rush win rate, which was 36th out of 123 defenders. So he got into that kind of top tier of edge rushers in terms of win rate in the top quartile. So that was much better for him in that he was winning a lot of his pass rush snaps, and that pass rush grade, though not highly impressive at 65.9, would be a career best for Sam Hubbard. And again, I know we love Sam Hubbard. He's an excellent run defender, but this is going to be the time that he is going to probably need to supplement a lot of these Sam Hubbard snaps and take over, because look, I know Sam Hubbard was dealing with a leg injury last year and that he was playing through it, but this is career-wise, right, with Sam Hubbard, that these marks, these pass rush win rate marks, these pass rush grade marks that Miles Murphy is hitting would be career marks for a guy like Sam Hubbard as a pass rusher. And you said it yourself, the pass rush needs more juice. This is a league where passing the ball is becoming more and more important every single year. Obviously, to beat the Chiefs, to beat the Bills, you're going to be able to have to stop the pass. So getting Miles Murphy a lot more reps, I think him taking a big step forward, I think that he absolutely can do that this year, both in terms of his role for the defense as well as the production as well.
I agree. Logan, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, Evan just kind of talked about how the league is so pass heavy, and, you got to counter all these great athletes just in general on the offensive side of the ball. And I'm going to continue the theme of a defensive player here, but I'm going to go DJ Turner. I think that, in general, the secondary really struggled last year, but I think a lot of that was there's a lot of turnover. There's a lot of new faces, but there's also the poor defensive line play.
Mhm.
There was just a lot going on. But at the end of the day, DJ Turner only had a 48.4 coverage grade last season. You just that's bad. That's just not good. When you're such a good, just humanly gifted athlete like DJ Turner is, a sub 4.3 speed, you got to be able to at least cover. And it's not like he just can't do it. He did it all in college and he was very good at it. So it's just, we need to see more from him. The athletic ability is there, just the flashes are there. He came in and started off really well, and then kind of just as he got more and more runs, struggled. Maybe it's just kind of finding his strength, playing him to his strengths, or zone coverage, maybe moving him around more, whatever it is. But he's just such a unique athlete. He's such a gifted athlete. And when you have those things that you can't really coach, you got to find ways to translate that onto the field. And I think hopefully with the improved defensive line, he can kind of tune into some of that more athletic ability. He can sit there and just be like, I know I don't have to cover for 5 seconds anymore. I can just do what I can do in 2.5 seconds, and then I can make a play on the ball. He can play with more confidence because he knows the line's going to get there. He's too good of an athlete, and he's too good of a player to kind of struggle the way he did down the stretch last year. But again, we didn't really add anybody in the cornerback room to really come in and kind of threaten his job.
We did though.
Right away.
We did though.
He's going to start.
No. We did though.
We did, but
I don't mean any draft picks.
Yeah,
I'm talking about Dax Hill.
Yeah.
Listen, I think there's something to be said. Listen, if we know anything about this coaching staff, the need to prove a pick right is a thing.
Yeah.
Is a thing. So, hell, I'll go a step further. I think Dax Hill may have a leg up to the starting job already.
Ooh.
Because he has the first round pedigree. Because listen, here's what I can tell you. I know this for a fact. I know that there were a lot of people who were very pissed about DJ Turner's performance towards the end of the season. I believe he just hit a rookie wall. I don't think we should crucify the guy. That's what I believe. But what I'm saying is, if Dax Hill, because he does have that quote unquote first round pedigree on him, well, I'll put it this way. If him and Dax Hill are very similar in play throughout the preseason, this isn't me breaking news. And I'm just saying what I believe. And I'm sorry to cut you guys off. If you guys disagree with me, it's fine. I believe if the play is similar in preseason, I think that Dax Hill would have the leg up.
Yeah, I don't think that's crazy by any means at all. It's just, even regardless, even if we just want to talk about Dax, that whoever that second cornerback position needs to be the person who takes the biggest leap, because we don't truly know what we're going to get. Obviously, again, Cheeto's gone. Dax going to be the corner. DJ Turner going to be the corner. Just regardless, the cornerback position is such a thing that fluctuates so much, so up and down. You don't ever know what you're going to get. That's why consistency at that position is, one, so rare, and two, that's why those people who are consistent get paid the way they do.
Right.
Just, I do like the idea of Dax Hill if it could work out that way, just because he provides you some height and some length, and still with great athleticism. But whoever that cornerback 2 is going to need to be good.
Can I play a scenario for you guys real quick?
Yeah.
I just can't get this out of my head. I feel like DJ Turner does not project well as a slot corner, right?
No, I don't know why we keep trying to fit
and
him
I don't
in
know
there.
why people keep saying that, right? So my thought, what keeps coming up in my head, guys, and I might sound like an idiot, and excuse my ignorance if I do sound like an idiot. It won't be the first time. Does Cam Taylor-Britt project better as a slot corner?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Does he?
Yeah, he does.
That's what
But
we've
with
said
Dax
from the
Hill,
beginning,
yeah,
I feel
no,
like.
Logan and I have always been on this train. Like, we have said it nonstop since people got DJ Turner and then just said, like, oh, well, there's your slot guy.
Yeah.
Like, no, Cam Taylor-Britt definitely has more of that physical profile, that aggressive tackling nature. And then on top of that, like you said, Dax Hill, where does Dax Hill, outside corner? No. Inside, slot corner. What is he good at? Covering these tight ends, covering these bigger bodies, being in the box, blitzing even. He looked good on the few times that he was sent on blitzes, like playing that Mike Hilton role, which again, I'm not wishing injury on anybody, but you got an undersized corner that's going to be 30 years old, like, who plays a very physical nature. Like, he may need either that rest of 10, 20 snaps a game to keep him fresh, or God forbid something happens, you have Dax Hill, who I think can fill in very, very nicely in that role.
So just so I'm understanding you correctly, and I'm not disagreeing with you, I'm more so praising you, actually, because I value your opinion. You don't see the upside with Dax Hill as an outside boundary corner.
I see the upside, but I think he profiles so much better to his strengths. Like, yes, he has the bigger size than DJ Turner, sure, but DJ Turner, you know what his limitations are going to be because of his size, because of his length, right? But he's still in the right position generally. He
Mhm.
still has the recovery and the instincts. And that's one thing that scares me about Dax Hill is why didn't you want him at free safety? Because he didn't have great instincts,
that was the
especially
instincts, yeah,
deep,
for
right?
sure,
So
yeah.
if you guys were kind of terrified by what Dre Kirkpatrick used to bite on, I could see a very similar. And again, I'm not trying to besmirch Dax Hill. I'm not trying to project already what's going to happen before he's even had a chance to play in that role. But I just, when I'm building a defense, when I'm trying to get the best people on the team out there in the best spots to make plays, I look at all of Dax's strengths and I go, the slot is such a natural fit for him and what he can do compared to the outside, where I feel like, does he have the physical ability? Yes. But does he have the instincts and the experience and the difficulty of just playing outside corner in general? Not as much.
I guess the question I have for you guys, are we discussing, and this is the part of the show where it gets in, are we discussing what I think we're discussing? Are we discussing maybe one of those guys, either the guy via draft pick or one of the guys like a Dax Hill, maybe starting over Mike Hilton? Are we discussing that? Because I think there's there's no way if Dax Hill shows proof that he can play at that spot where you can conceivably tell yourself Mike Hilton.
So this is where we go back to, like, is it starting or is it playing a certain number of snaps? Because I think that's
Mike Hilton should still play 100%. Very underrated player on this defense. I'm just thinking, like, if we say to Dax Hill, Dax, we're going to use you primarily as just covering tight ends. Damn, like, how often is that guy getting on the field?
I think the whole, I guess the greater question of it, when you look at, like, just, I guess, the history of DBs and, secondaries across the league, it's not a positional group where you really rotate much. You usually have your guys and those are your guys. But, like, that's kind of what I'm interested to see this year because, yeah, we have so much talent in the secondary, but where they all fit, who plays well where, with who next to them is a major question. And with the history of not really rotating guys in and out, I wonder if maybe are we just going to try different things weekly? Are we just truly going to rotate guys all around till we find success? Whatever path it is, like we have so much talent back there. There's just so many questions on who's going to play where, when are they going to play, what are they going to do? And, I'm glad Lou can figure it out because I trust him wholeheartedly to do that. But it is going to be interesting to see what kind of changes, if anything changes at all. Because if nothing changes and we don't rotate people, then this is where these conversations need to be taken more seriously because you need more, I guess, higher floor guys on the field.
This reminds me of the same. Oh, sorry.
No,
I was going to say this reminds me a lot of the conversation around Von Bell and Jordan Battle, and I think it should be much the same, right?
Yes.
Where I think Lou, if you gun to his head was like, hey, who's going to start, first snap out there? I think he trusts the veterans more, right? Yeah. Because we saw last year how everybody struggled to get lined up and just run and execute, right? And just do the basics things, right? And that resulted in them giving more explosive plays up than any other defense. And I think you may see Von Bell start, but I think you may see Jordan Battle outsnap him 60-40, right? And I'm not saying, again, like you bench Mike Hilton, but instead of having him play 85% of the snaps, you dial that back to 65-60, keep him fresh, and also get a better look at Dax Hill, who you have to figure out right now. Do you want to try and bring him back on a contract?
Yeah.
Is this where we're going to play him? You've now moved him all over the secondary, so at this point, you got to just play him where his strengths make the most sense. You're trying to salvage the value of this player. And I think the strong safety slot corner hybrid spot is the perfect spot for him. And I think he could be the future at that position, to where you can keep DJ Turner and Cam Taylor-Britt and then bring in someone else to compete on the outside and just feel really good about what you have with Dax Hill in the slot. So I would hate to see Jordan Battle or Dax Hill have their snaps tremendously reduced.
Agreed.
And not get looks at them, because we remember how much it hurt us in our evaluation of, do the Bengals need to take a slot this year? Do they need to address receiver because they didn't give enough work to Charlie Jones for injury and setback reasons and everything else? But still, for playing, running like 30 routes the entire season, you had that question mark. You can't have that question mark on both Dax Hill and Jordan Battle. Like, Jordan Battle showed good steps. You can't stunt his growth per se. Again, sharing snaps is not going to be the end of him, but like relegating him to like a 30% snap share now, I think would be a big mistake.
I agree. It's such an interesting conversation to have because I feel like we're in a different spot than they were last year, right? We're talking about, all right, maybe not having enough guys to now having enough guys, but now you have an overabundance of guys. And it's just not at the cornerback spot. It's also at the safety spot, like we talked about. But one thing I've always said is competition breeds success. So I feel like the Bengals as a whole, as a unit, as a defensive secondary, man, I think that you win regardless. I think you win regardless. You're going to feel like somebody is getting the short end of the stick.
Everywhere, corner, safety, especially, even tight end now. I mean,
you know what the great comparison is for us? I view the Bengals secondary as the Houston Rockets lineup. And what I mean by that, the Houston Rockets, if for any basketball fans out there, have an overabundance. One of the up-and-coming great players in the association is Cam Whitmore. And that guy can't find time on the bench because they have so much talent, right? You got Thompson, you got Tari Eason, you got so many different guys that can add to it. And I think it's a similar situation. For the Bengals secondary, who's going to be that sixth man? Figuratively speaking, I've got who's going to be that sixth man that's going to come up that no matter what you can count on? Is it going to be a veteran? Well, we know Lou trusts his veterans, right? Is it going to be an up and coming guy? Maybe a guy that showed flashes? I just think that if you regulate DJ Turner to the bench, you stymie his growth a little bit, because I think he showed enough flashes last year to he could really be something special. He's ideally what you'd like to see in a corner.
Yeah, it's hard to keep those athletes on the bench.
I love what Royal Flush Terry's saying. And guys, do us a favor. We're back to our old format. No more war room. You guys can drop your question down in the comment section. We're going to get to them. I promise you. That's the part of the show that I've missed, is just talking with you guys and talking ball with y'all. But he says, when do we get to see this out of Tyson? When do we get to see this speed of Tyson Anderson at safety? I think we've seen a lot of flashes of Tyson Anderson throughout the last couple of seasons. The issue is just the health. It's the health. And I think that we've always said, if he stays healthy, well, we're like in year 4 now? Year three. Year 4. And it's one of those things where we just need to see it come to fruition. But I think that right now, we're not even really talking about those guys, right? Because of the overabundance in the secondary. And I think that this is a good problem to have. This is a good problem to have. But it also makes for a little bit of a challenging one as well, because you don't know how guys are going to receive. Like when that initial depth chart comes out and it's like, oh man, I was told I was going to do this. I was told listen, my advice to coaches, you guys don't need my advice, but this is my advice to coaches. Don't promise any starting jobs. Don't tell guys that you're the starter this year, because you don't know what might happen when the season kicks off. I think that when we start seeing those preseason tape, those mini, what do you call it? Mini camp, all, tapes come out of guys covering guys and locking guys up. We're going to be like, wow, that guy looks good. All the praise, all the rave coming out of, the Bengals offseason workout last year was DJ Turner looked like an absolute beast. He was doing great. He was mirroring Jamar Chase in coverage, and he was doing so many things well. And he started the season off so strong. What's his name? Dax Hill looked great in preseason. We were like, oh, wow, this could be something special. I think the first game he had a pick, right? And it was like, man, this could be a special unit. And then it just kind of went downhill. But I think it's important to remember these guys are young. They're going to learn. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to F up. There's going to be low PFF grades. It's going to happen. Just can't overreact, right? Yeah. But changing subject from just the secondary, let's talk about the receiving corps. What the hell happens with Yoshi? What the hell happens with Charlie? You still got Trent Irwin. Like, what happens? And these are guys that have given you good reps. I think Charlie Jones is probably going to be a very good punt returner for the Bengals. I think when you just look at it, though, the receiving situation, in a sense, is similar to the cornerback situation. I think less competition a little bit, less competition, but I still think it's tough. Who is going to be that third man out there? Because when I look at a guy like Jermaine Burton, I'm sorry. And you might call, and that's actually our next topic that we're going to talk about. I just think the gap between Jermaine Burton and those guys is massive, in my opinion. It's massive. It's like, so that guy is going to have not unless Jermaine Burton comes in and just can't learn the playbook. I don't see how that guy does not break into the starting lineup as a rookie. I'm sorry. He brings something completely different to the table, and it sucks because I love Yoshi. I love Charlie Jones. Yoshi's a Princeton boy. I grew up right next to Fred. That's where I lived, right? You root for that guy. But when you get a guy like Jermaine Burton, who's just a dog, when you get a guy that could change the face of your receiving corps, like I look at it and I say, Jermaine Burton, to me, I'll take what I think Jermaine Burton's going to bring to the Bengals over what TB has given us the last 3 years.
Yeah.
I think that Jermaine Burton is going to be that big of a difference maker. Now, you might be like, Malik, you're just a Bama homer. And you know what? No, I don't think I am. Because there are a lot of guys who I've said, I'm good on. Jermaine Burton is so different. He's so different. And that flexibility to play him inside, outside. But more importantly, what is Jermaine Burton going to do for a guy like Jamar Chase? What is he going to do for that? If T. Higgins misses a game or two because of an injury, okay.
Yeah.
Then that guy slots in. He slots in as the number 2 spot. Who's the number 3? Okay, that's a battle between, and that's the battle that was the discourse Evan and I had all the offseason last year. No one could have predicted, obviously, Charlie Jones' hand injury, but now it becomes a battle. Who gets more reps? Is it Charlie? Is it Yoshi? Because when I look at it, if we're grading it like this, guys, and tell me if I'm wrong or if I'm ignorant at any point in time, I just think that Charlie is your slot receiver of the future. He's the older guy.
Yeah.
So it's tough. But I like Yoshi. That's the thing. I think Yoshi's shown so much.
He looked good last year.
He looked good.
Than thought.
I think Yoshi has showed a lot, but I just think that when you have the opportunity to draft a borderline first-round talent in a guy like Jermaine Burton, maybe this is what we've been asking for the Bengals, right? Yeah. Draft best player available. Draft best player available. Draft best player available.
To a degree.
To a degree.
Got to put that asterisk in there.
Not quarterback. There's not certain other positions.
Yeah.
But this is what we've asked for, and now we get it, and now it creates confusion.
Yeah.
You have Bengals fans in shambles saying, should I get a Burton jersey? Should I get what the hell should we do? It's a good spot to be in, but I got to be honest with you guys. I'm looking at it. I'm like, okay, what are we doing? Evan, what are your thoughts?
I don't think this is a reflection on Yoshivas. I think the real competition, like you said, is between him and Charlie Jones. And I think that we were hopeful that Charlie Jones could capitalize on his upside and his production and kind of beat the odds on his general profile of being productive at a later age and the kind of setbacks that come along with that profile. Burton is definitely challenging that slot receiver role right now, right? Because T is not getting relegated to the bench. But the advantage of him, and also I think it'll be both him and Yoshivas will both play the X or the Z. I think they might kick in Jamar Chase more in the slot right now to get him more two-way goes, to get him matched up on guys who are either smaller and less imposing and less physical than he is because he's like a running back. So I think he can use that size and physicality advantage on some of these smaller nickels that might be trying to cover him in there. And then if you can get the mismatch from moving him in there to get covered by a linebacker or safety, I mean, yeah, you're cooking with gas at that point. So I think the big advantage of having Yoshivas, who looked good in spurts last year, having Burton, who is different from Tyler Boyd in the sense that he gives you a lot more verticality. The guy was averaging 20.2 yards per target, average depth of target 20.2, and he was averaging 14 yards per target, which was second out of 39 draft eligible receivers and qualifiers. So he was definitely producing explosive plays, which the Bengals have lacked and we've been asking for. And look at some of his routes outside of the sideline jump balls, outside of the deep balls to the end zone. When he does catch the ball over the middle of the field, he, despite his size, can handle that hit over the middle of the field in traffic. He's not afraid, as you worry about sometimes with these undersized guys. He is physical and he gives you more after the catch than you would expect. And Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins, outside of Jamar Chase, those guys both averaged 4 yards after the catch or less. Burton in his year playing about 40% out of the slot with Bryce Young was up to 5 yards after the catch. And with Joe Burrow and what you can do with this offense and what he does with ball placement and throwing guys open, he definitely can give you some explosive plays, both just like vertically running slot fades, posts, all this stuff. It's definitely going to help unlock the offense a little bit. But again, to bring this back to, you said, what do they do? I think this is 1, 2, 3, 4 is T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, Burton, and Yoshivas, 100%. And then Charlie is going to be competing. And again, no slight to Irwin. He filled in admirably, but we're talking about a guy who's 29 years old, is bounced around the league, and is making $1 million and is off your roster next year. You'd much rather understand what you have in these young guys. And if you can keep going, if T. Higgins is out and suddenly Jermaine Burton and Yoshivas are both combining for, 1,400 yards and 10 touchdowns, well, maybe you feel like wide receiver is now a place you can supplement. You can pay Chase and have all these young guys, and that's a place you can stay cheap and go spend somewhere else. So I think information and playing these young guys, both for development and for understanding what you have going forward, is going to be your best path. And I see that unfolding that way.
I agree. Logan, what are your thoughts?
I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, we have production to replace. You have almost 200 vacated targets, 145 vacated catches, 1,200 receiving yards, just flat out gone from last year. So you got to replace that however you want to replace that. Whether some of those stats I just named, some of that's Joe Mixon, some of those are tight ends that have departed. I mean, a lot of it's Tyler Boyd as well. But regardless, that is a lot of production to make up in the air. So obviously they're going to get creative, like everybody alluded to, moving guys in, moving guys out. But the thing with Jermaine Burton, that's just, I feel like is going to be truly hard to keep him on the field. We talk about, the inside-outside versatility of a guy like Jamar Chase. And Burton only played the slot about 25% of the time these last 2 years. But when he was in the slot, he was very productive. Last year, 27.2 yards per catch out of the slot is just ridiculous. Evan alluded to his verticality there, which is what Tyler Boyd didn't ever provide from that slot position. That's elite explosiveness from the slot. 27 yards a catch is ridiculous. But if you put him on the outside, okay, 19.4 yards per catch. Wow, that really sucks.
Bring it down.
Moral of the story there is that's 20 yards a catch plus, no matter where you line them up on the field. And I just think when you have that explosiveness on the field with T. Higgins and Jamar Chase, it's going to make everybody more scared of them, whether it's they're going to give more attention to Jamar, and then now we can beat you with Bird in the slot or outside, whatever it is. It just provides more explosiveness, more home run ability on the field while still getting, Jamar Chase in the slot for our easy buttons or these running backs out of the backfield. It just provides you more explosiveness, and with the more explosive routes, it's going to open up everything else underneath as well. And I just think Burton provides the more, I guess, the scary look that people want. When teams are already going to be scared of everybody else on the field, when you have a guy that can also scare you, it's just going to be a nightmare.
And to add to that, sorry to cut you off there. Tyler Boyd was so valuable because he had such a great feel for zone, right?
Yes.
And could be that option receiver and just was on the same page with Burrow. And hopefully Burton can get to that point very quickly with him. But this is a guy who was 95th percentile and is receiving grade versus zone coverage. So this is another person who has really good feel for zone, can find ways to beat that. And like you said, just gives you that vertical element to where whether it's in the slot, we saw guys, Zay Flowers, Christian Kirk for the Jaguars. We saw the slot fade give the Bengals fits a lot last year. Felt like a lot of explosive plays kind of came off that slot fade route. And he can do that. But more importantly, despite his size and smaller stature, he absolutely can win against press on the outside. And more encouragingly, what do we know that Joe Burrow has kind of had as his bread and butter with Jamar, T, and Trenton Irwin? The go ball, the back shoulders, those feeling routes on the boundary. Jermaine Burton has great feel for the sideline, uses it very well to his advantage, attacks the leverage of DBs to get them turned around, flip their hips, and then attack the blind spot. He does all the small things, and he is so good with his body control and his catch point timing that he finds ways to compensate for that size and that lack of arm length just with his nuance and feel for the position. So I think he's going to be a guy who fits like a glove with Burrow after time.
I agree with you guys. Guys, while you're here, do us a favor, give this video a like, subscribe to the YouTube channel, turn on post notifications as well, so you guys don't miss when we go live from the First Star Logistics Studio. We have close to 200 people in the chat right now. We only have 26 likes on the video, so if you guys could like it up, please. We want you guys to drop your questions down in the comment section, because that's the next part of the segment. We're going to start to jump and answer your questions, guys. But before we do, because I want to talk about my guy. I want to talk about my guy that I haven't mentioned a little bit, Mike Gesicki. I want to talk about him for a second. But before I do, I had a funny DM the other day. Somebody said, love what you guys do on the show. Somebody compared the State of the Jungle to NBA on TNT.
Oh goodness.
Lord. They said we're Cincinnati's NBA on TNT. I said, okay, who's Ernie? Who's Shaq? Who's Kitty? Right? Who's Chuck?
Oh goodness, I don't know. We get into it. We get into some heated arguments, so I don't feel like I can be Ernie. I don't feel like I'm cool enough to be Ernie.
I mean, I don't know who's who. Daniel's got to be Ernie. Daniel's definitely Ernie.
I'll take Kenny.
You'll take Kenny.
I'll take Kenny.
Man.
See, Logan is. You know what? Logan is Chuck. Because he's got a little side comments all the time. And I guess I'm Shaq.
Yeah,
I guess I'm Shaq.
I guess so.
So no, I just found that so funny because I couldn't stop laughing when someone said that. So like, obviously I thought that was really, really awesome for someone to even compare us to that. They said you guys have that type of vibe when it comes to Cincinnati. So I'm happy that we could bring something different and be different here in Cincinnati too. And hopefully you guys like it. But keeping the conversation rolling, when we talk about the receiving core, we remiss if we didn't bring up Mike Gesicki. I think Mike Gesicki is going to be a huge addition to the Bengals. I've been preaching it all off season. So guess what, guys? If he winds up with 300 yards on the season, you guys can come in the chat. You guys say, Malik, shut up. You don't know what you're talking about. You could be like the guy on Twitter and says, you are not accountable, whatever he said to me the other day. But I think when we talk about Mike Gesicki, I think the thing that excites me most about him is he's not your traditional, obviously, tight end, but he is that receiving threat, right? He's that receiving threat, but it's his catch radius. His catch radius is so huge. And I think it's something that is game changing for the Bengals because even though people don't like to say he's a tight end, he's not necessarily a traditional tight end. He's still a tight end. So he's going to be lined up and have the mismatches of a tight end. So when you look at it, man, I just don't know how a defense, and it seems like him and Joe Burrow are already developing great rapport. Looks like they're developing great rapport. And so I know it wasn't necessarily a part of the topic segment, but I just wanted to bring him up again because yes, we did go after Jermaine Burton. Yes, I'm excited about Jermaine Burton. Yes, I'm excited that the receiving core is back in business and you still got Charlie, you still got Yoshi Voss. Still got Trent Irwin. And I'll be real with you guys. That fourth wide receiver is so imperative. It's so important still because now the Bengals can truly run that four wide receiver set that they've been looking to run. And even with Gesicki, you're still going to get that fourth receiver getting targets, getting reps, getting opportunities, right? And so like that's why we're kind of debating who's going to be that fourth guy, who's going to be the next guy, because I think we're all in the same alignment that Jermaine Burton is 3. Right.
Well, so Mike Gesicki might play some X. I know that sounds ridiculous at first, but I mean, in terms of percentage of snaps where he's lining up on the outside, he's been over 18% of his snaps lined up wide in all but one season. So he's been out there almost 1 in 5 of his passing snaps. So he's not playing inline often, exceeding just 20% only once in his career, mostly under 15%. You're talking about a guy who's going to be a lot of slot and wide. And if they are playing 12 personnel, I think it's going to be more of that like pseudo 12 personnel, more like 11 because Gesicki will be your receiver.
Yeah, I mean, Mike Gesicki literally played 94 snaps as a traditional tight end last year. 94, 320 in the slot, 106 outside. He's a tight end.
You might as well call him receiver, right?
Yeah. Whatever. He's a fun piece. He's a versatile piece. And that's, when we talked about just bringing it back to even the beginning of the show where why Joe Burrow can win MVP, it's because his offense is going to be able to give you infinite amount of different looks. People can line up literally wherever. And you can do that when you have a tight end like Mike Gesicki, where you still have Drew Sample, you still have Eric All, you still have all these things that you can just do so many different things with. It just makes everything that much harder when you can give you so many different looks, so many different, variations of a play, line up in this formation. I can hit you with the run. I can hit you deep. I can hit you shallow. Like you can do so many things. I think, the Bengals offense for I guess I don't want to say for once, but it can give you so much more versatility in alignment. We don't just have to spread you out to beat you down the field.
Right.
I agree. And I think this is the biggest thing that really, really excites me about it all. And, it's funny, whenever we're on State of the Jungle, I get a bunch of DMs and people are like,
he's so cute.
Never that.
Never mind.
That's you. They're like, oh my God, Evan, you're hot. That's literally what everybody was saying.
Different colors, Evan.
Like, oh my God. But no, if you guys could, I appreciate you guys DMing me and asking questions, but just drop questions down in the comment section on the show. That's how we interact with you guys the most. We really do appreciate it. This is the part of the show where we start asking and answering some questions. So guys, do us a favor. Drop some questions down in the comment section. This is where the fun begins. I'm going to ask one more time. Don't mean to be, repetitive, if you will. But
it's been a while. Get them out, man. Throw them at us.
Way over 200 people in the chat. Still only 37 likes. If you guys like what we do, you guys like you like the content, you like State of the Jungle, this is your favorite Bengals show, just drop a like. We like to be inclusive and include you guys on the comment section. But before we jump into that, I want one of you guys to do me a favor. Look, I'm going to task you with this.
Okay.
Pull up what the Bengals, who the Bengals 2024 opponents are.
Okay.
I want to talk about that for a second. Before we jump into questions, give some people opportunities to drop questions in the comment section before we jump to all of it. But yeah, like pull up what our 2024 Bengals schedule are. And the reason why I'm having him pull this up is because I want to know what matchup you're looking forward to the most. The one thing I have to ask for schedule makers, please, for the love of God, can the Bengals not open up the season with a divisional opponent?
Right. Or the first 3 weeks.
Please.
Right.
I'd appreciate that. I think that'd be very nice. And
yeah.
So read to me off the opponents.
All right. Our home opponents this year, obviously, you got all the divisional games. But then you have the Broncos, the Raiders, the Eagles, the Commanders, and the Patriots. Those are all your home games.
Right.
Your away games, again, all the divisionals. Then we go to Dallas, Kansas City, the Chargers, the Giants, the Panthers, and the Titans.
Right when I hear that, obviously Kansas City is always Kansas City, but there's a game. I don't know why the Chargers. They're just they match up well with us. I don't know why.
It's going to be interesting to see how they change their identity with Harbaugh at the helm now.
Yeah. I expect a run heavy approach.
Oh yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Run heavy approach.
Imagine losing AJ Green and T Higgins and passing up on Jamar Chase, and that's basically what happened there at the 5th pick. So when he committed to the offensive line, which again, nothing wrong if in that scenario you've got the Penny Sewell, but it's just imagine losing 2 of your greatest receivers in the last 10 years or so. The Chargers have kind of struggled to find a mainstay at receiver, and Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, though as much Mike Williams was in and out of the lineup when he was healthy on the field, he was very, very productive. So yeah, that imagine losing T Higgins and AJ Green in one season, and then you pass on Jamar, which again, I love Ladd McConkey. I think that was a good pick. Just go off on a little tangent there. I made that comparison talking about the draft the other day.
Yeah, man. I man, when I look at this thing, man, I'm looking at the Bengals right now, man, and this might just be like me looking in like a sort of a vacuum, but I genuinely don't know how they don't do it this year. Like I understand health is a big part of this thing.
Always. Yeah.
And can you stay healthy is the question. But you do have that that last place schedule. And you have to be able to take advantage of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know that listen, let's call it what it is, though. Let's call it what it is. If you're in the AFC North, there's no such thing as a last place schedule, right? Every game is a gauntlet. Every game is, you've got to step up to the plate. Every game is tough, right? And we're talking about a team who had 1 win in their entire division last year. And to be honest with you, it was a throwaway game, right? Not what you like to see, not conducive for success, not ideal, not to be repeated. It's the same thing that we said before when the Bengals, they would start the season off slow. Then they would make a rally and they would win a bunch of games. We said, we saw them do it before. And then they did it again, and they didn't do it this time. And so it's one of those things where this is the same thing for me. It's the same thing. Think about it this way. The Bengals lost almost every single game in the division except for one, and they still were in the playoff hunt.
Yep.
That's not a recipe that is sustainable.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a recipe that I would recommend. That's a recipe that I would say, hey, Bengals, win your division. Cut grass at home before you cut your neighbor's grass.
Yeah.
You can't worry about the AFC. You got to worry about the AFC North. I'll simplify it again. We might have let the AFC championship appearances, the playoff wins get to our head, but rule the jungle, rule the North, rule the AFC, win the damn Super Bowl. It's really just that simple. But if you take care of things on the home front first, then wow, you're making life a whole lot easier for yourself, in my opinion. Listen, I'm not some great philosopher, but I just think it's very simple. You draft to beat your division, right? That's what you do. The moves that the Bengals made this year signify to me that they have an understanding of what the issues were for their team. Meaning, They felt they had a hole at the safety spot. So you know what they said? They said, Von Bell, our good old friend, let's bring you back. They said, Geno Stone, you're an up-and-coming safety. You have these tendencies and these intangibles. You have these things about you, these qualities that we think could make a really standout free safety that Lou loves in his over-aggressive defense, if you will, at times. Let's bring in that guy. Let's steal him away from the AFC North. And I know the guy is good because everybody in the Ravens community were pissed about it.
Yeah.
So they did those things. You add to the cornerback room. You add to the defensive line room. You keep your linebackers the same. So no real move to really upgrade the linebacker position told me one thing. This isn't just from the talks I've had, but this told me one thing. They don't believe that their linebackers were the issue.
Yeah.
They believe the linebackers were over-communicating, trying to make up for a lot of people's inabilities, if you will. So we bring in the position groups that we think we need more juice at. We bring in the spots where we think that we can, use a little bit more oomph at, if you will. You get that, and the rest is history. But I'm talking about this, and I'm being passionate about it because it's true. You've got to win in your division. You've got to win in your division. We're looking at it, and we say every single year, the Bengals should beat the Cleveland Browns.
Mm-hmm.
But you know what was the one caveat to that, guys? It was, oh, crap. Remember, they have a guy who's one of the best pass rushers in football in Myles Garrett. Who's going to block him? Well, guess what? You told the fan base, you said, well, we went out there and we signed Trent Brown Jr. He's one of the better right tackles, if healthy, in the league. Then we doubled up. We drafted a guy in Amarius Mims who is probably going to play if Trent Brown can't stay healthy. We already got Orlando Brown Jr. And all those tackles have the same thing in common. What's that? 6'8", 340 pounds, mountains, massive human beings. Guys, you can't just bully. Okay, so with that thinking, with that thought process, right? You're telling yourself that you corrected that issue. So when you go up against elite pass rushers in your division, guys like Myles Garrett, guys like TJ Watt, you say we got an answer for you. That's what you say. At least that's what I think. So when I look at what the Bengals have on the horizon as far as their schedule, take care. I don't give a rat's ass about when rule the AFC. Let's rule the North and rule let's do that. Let's do that first. There's no reason why you should be dropping games to the Pittsburgh Steelers at this point. I get they're tough. I get Mike Tomlin's always got his team prepared. Next, and what does that mean? What does that mean? Zach Taylor has had more success as a head coach than Mike Tomlin has had in the last couple of years. Mm-hmm. You've been there. You've been to the Super Bowl. You've been to the AFC Championship. You have this team with this quote-unquote elite quarterback who's the highest paid quarterback in the National Football League. That shouldn't be an excuse. You shouldn't be, Mike Tomlin just always finds a way. When is Zach Taylor, when is the Bengals going to say, we just find a way? When is that going to be the identity that we start talking about? Because I want to talk about the Bengals. These guys want to talk about the Bengals the same way we talk about these other teams. Yeah. It should not matter if your left tackle is out. It should not. Listen, you want perfect to be perfect. But in a football season, perfect rarely happens. It very rarely happens. So you've got to find a way. We talked about it last year, and I preached it on State of the Jungle, and I'm preaching it now just to get it out so that way when the season starts, I don't have to say it again. For me, I know there were people out there, Evan, that said, hey, the Bengals established an identity offensively. Let me say it again. What is the identity? What is the identity? Because what I saw during the Super Bowl season was, well, we're gonna stretch the guys out defensively, and we're gonna just throw Hail Mary passes to Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. That's not an identity. No. Screw it. Even if you say we're not gonna establish the run game, even though I think that would help. Now that you have a better offensive line, you think maybe you don't need to allow your offensive line to get into a rhythm match early, but you have to think about it this way. We have to do more things to help our quarterback. We have to do more things to help our offense get into the game. There was no identity on the offensive side of things. I think we can all agree to that. Yeah. And ideally what I'm looking for is some more rhythm. There are games where the Bengals are just, they're just hitting. And it was just, they were just on a roll. And then there were other games where it just went flat. Yep. it's like the Niners. I think the Niners game and maybe no, the Niners game. The Niners game was probably the best offensive showing that I saw from this team this past year.
Yep.
The next week, I don't know what happened. Evan, me and you were texting, and I was like, "What just happened? What just happened?" You literally unlock what works. Now, granted, here's where I'll give them praise. I saw Joe Burrow doing more work under center. Evan, you think there's anything to that? I'd like to think there is, maybe, potentially.
I mean, they did it last season, but again, man, when you come through and your quarterback is hobbled and he can't move, you can't ask him to go under center and then take these long, deep drop backs where he's turning around and spinning around and can't keep his eyes on the defense. And I think part of that is also trying to get the ball out quickly, trying not to ask too much of a quarterback who was clearly hobbled by injury. But I think we've talked about this quite a bit, where I think so much of the offense originally when Joe Burrow came in was, we have a shortened off season for COVID injuries every season. What is comfortable for you? What are you running? And it was spread things out. It was shotgun spread. It was a lot of quick throws. It was a lot of empty. And we saw them kind of move away from that a little bit. But like you said, I think their intention was to do more play action. And I think they went to more of what they were anticipating they were going to do all season, like you said, in the Niners game, in the Bills game, and then weren't able to really do that with Burrow in his state most of the season. But then with Browning, we saw success with it. And I think there's even more there to be had, because obviously a lot of those rollouts and things you're doing of the like with Browning are more simplified, more half field reads, more just trying to play through your backup as opposed to trying to play through your elite quarterback, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's something to be said of a little bit of, yes, there will be more of that play action, that Jake Browning offense. I think it's something they wanted to do last year, but I also think there's going to be more. You'll have the easy buttons, you'll have some of the easier stuff, but at the same time, I do think you still need to have those more difficult plays that only Joe Burrow can do, because especially when you have all these different weapons that can punish teams deep in the seam everywhere. I mean, the vertical element you're going to have in this offense between Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Burton, and Gesicki all in the field at the same time, if that ends up like any one of those guys can beat you downfield for 20 yards. So I think that's going to unlock things that have gotten very congested in the middle of the field the last couple of years too.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I just love everything about what going under center can do for his offense. It's just something we haven't really ever seen, but every time we see it, good things usually happen. And obviously you can't install all that stuff when your quarterback can't move, or you might not have the personnel at tight end or this or that. We've had all the excuses in the book on why we can't do it the last few years, but now there isn't any. We got everything we need. We got a healthy quarterback. You know, we got everything. We got everything we hopefully need to be able to just go ahead, install everything we want, and just add a completely different element to this offense. And again, that's just having all these wrinkles, all these personnel packages, all these variations of an offense. Just it can help you avoid those moments where you're like, what am I watching? Like, you don't just have to line up 4 or 5 wide every time and just figure it out. If it's not working, now we can go jumbo personnel. We can go 2 tight ends. We can do, whatever you want and just grind out possessions, which we haven't really seen the last few years. It just opens up so many things. And when the offense was already good while limiting themselves, imagine how good it can be when you have almost endless possibilities about what you can run.
I agree. I think the one thing we're not talking about more of, guys, is maybe it's just me. I'm not the most enthused when it comes to the running game this year.
Oh yeah,
I do want to say this though, because this is important when we're talking about the run pass balance, right? Is this also needs to go with Joe Burrow having a little bit of accountability and responsibility, right?
Yes.
Because there are so many instances where you come out and you have an RPO called, and with the RPO, the box count is supposed to be dictating what you're choosing on that play. Yet on almost 70% of the light box opportunities through, I think, the first 6 weeks, they were throwing the ball. They were throwing the ball on RPOs at a higher rate against light boxes than they were on just standard every drop back. That can't happen. Joe Burrow, I know you see something, you're amazing. Just take the easy button. Take the easy button. Take the 3-4 yards you're getting from a light box. Trust your guys back there. Just take a play off. You don't have to be Superman anymore, right? I know we got to the Super Bowl doing that beforehand. You still are going to have those moments where you need to take over, but save yourself. Take a play off. give yourself that mental breather. Former quarterbacks talk all the time about the mental breather you get from these run plays after especially trying to diagnose everything from pre-snap to post-snap and make all the right decisions. It's a lot. But yeah, Joe Burrow just having the humility to be like, hey, man, yeah, I like that matchup with Jamar or T on the perimeter, and I want to take that shot. But at the same time, 4 yards here would really free us up to do a lot of different things next down, as opposed to looking at a lot of those 2nd and 10 situations, right? Or those 3rd and 8 situations that really kind of limit what you can do and limit that predictability your offense has.
Getting it in chunks, right? Not trying to get it all in one play.
Just trust your run game to be efficient, at least. If you're taking, you don't need to be running the ball 50-50, right? Your strength is built in your quarterbacks and your passing offense and your offensive line. And even with, like you said, Mims being added to the team, his strength is being able to pass protect at present. Being able to protect on those passing downs when you are a passing heavy offense is really important. You don't want to take that element away, but you do want to rely more on the run game when those looks, the defense is begging, right? When you're saying take what the defense is giving you, if they're giving you 4 yards per carry, go ahead and just run it up the gut. Go ahead and trust Zach Moss and Chase Brown, and you might have the space where you can get more out of that and create explosive plays in the run game, right? So I think that is, it sounds like he's coming from a much more humble place in terms of last year he was trying to fight through injury, put everything on himself, be Superman all the time. And maybe after watching Browning last year, after going through this injury stuff, it sounds like he's taking a much more mature approach in the sense of like, hey, I need to be real with myself, that there are times where I need to be more cautious than I have been, where I've tried to be Iron Man, Superman, whatever man you want to throw in there, right? So I think you're going to see more of that humility, both injury-wise and RPOs. And I think that's going to help the offense have more balance too.
And I think that's ideal too. I think seeing the success that Browning had last year may have been a blessing in disguise for this offense, because you look at it, you're like, wow, if this offense was able to tick and we were still able to put up points and move the ball efficiently, and Jake Browning is not on the level of Joe Burrow. We both know that.
Right.
Maybe that is a little bit of a mirror check, if you will. Right. And I think that could be humbling. If you guys again can drop your comments down in the comment section. I'm not sure if I'm seeing you. You guys not coming with a lot of comments. There aren't a lot of questions. There are a lot of comments though. I see Gesicki. I see Zach Moss. This from Gary Jealous and Marissa. If we can get that up on the screen, he says, is Zach Moss a better fit in the shotgun pistol scheme for the Bengals, Evan?
I wish they ran more pistol, but they don't.
Pistol.
Yeah.
I love pistol because it's the perfect compromise between the under center and the shotgun, right? Because obviously with shotgun, you have a running back on either side of you, right? So you're kind of declaring that the strength of your formation is going to be one way, or that you're going to be, most of your runs out of shotgun are going to go one way, right? You're not going to have the running back running counter very often. The pistol gives you the advantage of being farther from the line of scrimmage a little bit, but also gives you that versatility, yes, of having like a two-way go for the running back as opposed to declaring the direction you're most likely to go. So I would love to see them run more pistol. That was not something that we did see, unfortunately. Maybe that's something they do add as they do more of their under center stuff. But the big thing again was just Joe Mixon was not able to produce outside of what was blocked. There was just not the missed tackles forced in terms of either just eluding the big guys and being quicker than them, or just bowling through the contact tackles of the smaller secondary defenders. He just consistently was not able to do that. And Zach Moss was fortunately a lot better at that. Chase Brown has a lot more of that agility profile to his game, a little bit more of that explosiveness. So while I appreciate the consistency that Joe Mixon would get you, again, it was just like, I think there's more opportunity if they continue to lean into these light box looks. I think you're just inherently going to get more than just expectation, which you got out of Mixon. So I do think there's reasons to be optimistic that the run game as a pairing of Chase Brown and Zach Moss can outperform the 80-85% load that Mixon had to shoulder constantly.
I'm there with you.
So I'm getting to some questions here in the comment section. First, Hannah Davis, she says, do you think Joe Burrow's wrist will be fine for the season? That's all the way up, Marissa. If we can get Hannah Davis's comment up. Logan, I want to let you touch on it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think everybody's had their fun with the report that came out the other day about his bones not growing, whatever the hell that stupid thing was. But I mean, obviously, everybody rehabs differently. Joe kind of talked about how he couldn't find another quarterback that had experienced a similar injury. He said he found plenty of linemen and other positions that have dealt with the injury. So comes with some uncertainty there, but he's attacking it well. He's saying all the right things. He's doing all the right things. That's what he does. He's always going to attack it hard. There's no reason to believe it's not. I mean, he's come back from much worse injuries in the past. Obviously, there's always going to be some concern of re-injury just because it is the throwing hand. If it was in the other hand, it would be a completely different story. Nobody would really even care. But I expect him to be fine. He already looks good throwing the ball.
Mhm.
So I'm not going to stress about it until there's a reason to stress about it.
Our good old friend, the Disc Golf Dad, he says, first and foremost, I've asked multiple questions. I'm sorry, Disc. My bad. He says, who is our BJ Hill trade this year, and why is it Jackson Carman and Joseph Asai? I'll start off by saying it is not going to be Joseph Asai, but we can discuss why it could be Jackson Carman. That would take a team saying, I see something in that guy that the Bengals don't see.
I think that's also their interior offensive line depth right now,
Yeah.
where it's that and Cody Ford and not much else. Where your Jackson Kirkland maybe is your other guy there, but that's maybe asking a lot. So I don't know if they feel comfortable getting even thinner at an already thin position.
You want to talk about fleecing? Let's talk about fleecing for a second. That would be fleecing a team, because I'll never say never, and here's why. Billy Price was able to garner draft capital and BJ Hill out of it.
People are desperate for offensive line, man.
Right. And I think in an offensive line driven league, I think the chances the Bengals can get a call for Jackson Carman actually are pretty high.
Yeah.
I think especially when it gets down to cut down day, if there's a veteran where the Bengals are like, damn, we would love to have that guy on our team, or a player the Bengals would love to have on their team, maybe as a cast off for whatever reason didn't work out, and you're like, man, we would love to have that guy on our team, and we know that he's either going to get cut. Maybe we know they called about Jackson Carman. Maybe that team has interest in Jackson Carman, and you're already going to cut the guy regardless.
Yeah.
We help you with interior, because guess what? What other teams like isn't what another team likes. There could be a team that says the Bengals have played Jackson Carman out of position. They could say the Bengals have used Jackson Carman primarily as a what do you call it? As a right tackle, as a guard. But there were some people that felt like he projected better at left tackle. There were some people that felt like he projected better at guard. You never know what other people in the league might view another player as. We never thought that you'd be able to get the draft capital you got out of Billy Price, and you got that out of Billy Price. So I think it's one of those things where I could see a team calling for Jackson Carman. I could.
Yeah.
I think that's realistic.
I think if we're just looking at, like names and necessarily positions, wouldn't surprise me if you've seen a running back too. There's some crowded running back rooms across the league. You're looking in Denver, they just drafted the Jets.
Dear God, what are they doing?
They drafted 2 more running backs this year. They drafted 1 last year, Breece Hall the year before. The Chicago Bears,
Michael Carter the year before that.
Yeah, the Chicago Bears. They signed DeAndre Swift, Khalil Herbert's there, Roshan Johnson they drafted last year. Another crowded room, and I think they're obviously content with their running back room where they would have drafted one. But if you're just looking at, again, if you're just going to have the opportunity to bring in another solid contributor at a position that you would cut, then it's just something that can work out. But I think, wouldn't surprise me if there was a small move for a running back like that, just because there are plenty of crowded rooms across the league.
There's a question in the comment section, someone asking about the punter battle between Austin McNamara and Brad Robbins. Listen, I am a football guy through and through. And let me just say, if Austin McNamara does what I think he's going to do, okay, let me change it a little bit. If Brad Robbins comes in and looks improved, but Austin McNamara does what I think he's going to do, is that enough for the Bengals to move off of Brad Robbins? That's the question.
Yeah.
That's the question, because there is a world in which Brad Robbins could come in and look realistically better. And you could say he struggled because he had a rookie wall. You could say he struggled because whatever the reason, the case may be. You could say whatever. But will they believe that?
It generally takes punters 2 to 3 years at least before they settle into the league. He's not the first person you've seen kind of be productive in college, but then, like you said, kind of have struggles as a rookie. And why would Austin McNamara be any different, right? A guy who was also productive at a smaller school in Texas Tech, not even necessarily smaller, but smaller than Michigan, right? And produce and be a good punter. But again, like, does that suddenly change when you get to the NFL, as it has for a lot of guys, where it's difficult? And then on top of that, Darren Simmons is very particular. Does he feel like Brad Robbins does a good enough job as a holder? And does he feel like that McNamara can do that as well? Because you don't probably want Burrow or Browning back there holding for anybody right now,
Absolutely
right?
not.
So you feel pretty good about what Browning gives you as a backup quarterback, and you don't want to risk him either. So, I think they could, like you said, just go with the status quo out of comfortability. But I think McNamara is going to have to come out and look really good, and Robbins would have to continue to look really bad if that was the case.
So, there was the one, there's this one caveat when it came to Brad Robbins, and he was never the guy with necessarily the strongest leg, but the hang time is what got him where the Bengals got him. But a lot of people felt like, all right, this is a guy he was going to give you, you won't get a lot of returns, but if you're looking for a guy that's going to absolutely boot the thing, I don't know if this is that guy. And so I guess it all depends on what Darren Simmons wants. It's a risky game you're playing. It's a risky game you're playing. Guys, I know we're talking about punter, but I think it's important to talk about, because I feel like the Bengals season has been hurt at point in time because of the field position battle.
Yeah.
I personally think that Austin McNamara, man, he might win the job, bro, because I just think that if he's able to provide the hang time with the consistency of being able to boot the damn ball, I just think that that's more attractive, and that's more like, man, we want that guy, because in a big time moment, right? Because think about it, if Brad Robbins' whole thing is the hang time thing, there's weather plays a factor into all this kind of stuff like that. And I think that's why sometimes you saw some of his punts come up short, honestly, at points in times. I think that that's much more of a luck game at points in time, versus I think there's somebody with Austin McNamara who has the God-given ability to just absolutely just shred the ball. I think that could, I guess take more precedent, make you feel more comfortable than a guy like Brad Robbins. In my thoughts.
I think it's it's just kind of weird. Like, I feel like it's just weird thinking about it and even saying it, but McNamara almost just fits the Bengals style of punter with the offense and with the team we run. And what I mean by that is, yes, Brad Robbins is good at what he's good at, the hang time, limiting returns, and just, kind of pushing the ball into the corner. But those are good when you're punting from midfield, the 40s, like when you're punting in, closer to your end zone. But the Bengals don't punt in those scenarios. If the Bengals are in those scenarios, they're either being aggressive and going for it, or they're going to let their good kicker, Evan McPherson, just go out there and try to get 3 points on the board. So the issue is, and why McNamara could arguably be a better fit, is because, like Malik said, he boots the dang thing. So when we're punting,
boots the damn thing.
There we go. We're going 3 and out, or we'll go, get 1 first down, and we punt from deep in our own territory a lot, because we have these weird days or drives at our team where we just forget how to play football, and that's when we need somebody to make up for it. And that's where Brad Robbins isn't helping us. That's where a guy like McNamara and that style of punting could really kind of be the deciding factor.
I mean, credit to Brad Robbins. He might boot that thing and give you that hang time, but it might just go 30 yards. But we didn't get a return out of it. I mean, there were some absolute shit. I don't know why it's been so difficult for the Bengals to find a capable punter. I don't know why.
I think when you have a punter for so long, you just almost forget how to scout one. Like, they had Huber,
just
for
haven't had
so
to bother
long.
with it. Yeah.
But even he was bad towards for the last maybe 2 years.
Yeah,
and granted, for the beginning of the Zach Taylor era, Kevin Huber was the MVP of the team. Like, that guy was punting like 8 times a game or something like that, something crazy like that. It's like, all right, man. Well, I guess I'm just thinking about it. I'm just like, I guess we're getting really, really far into the punter talk, but it is important.
It is
important. Special teams is important. I feel like we've glossed over it for a little bit, and I think now we're seeing it. We're like, all right, we're tired of the Bengals just kind of just faltering, if you will, when it comes to that. Big Jim Slade, my guy, he talks about Geno Stone. He said, talk more about Geno Stone and his addition to the team, Evan.
I think what he's going to give you is a guy who was Pretty good as a spot starter for the Ravens, and was probably a guy who was just buried a little bit in the rotation, who's looked capable, and a lot like Trey Hendrickson, I think, in the secondary, where you're taking a chance on a guy who hasn't really played the full-time starter snaps all the time, but has flashed and looked good, and you're kind of betting on a good value too, by the way. I thought he was going to get, 3-4 more million a year than he did. Good value there to kind of take that chance on a Trey Hendrickson-esque player with an expanded role who, if he maintains that level of play, could definitely be a top 5, top 8 safety in the league if he can do that over a full season as a starter. But I think you're just going to get more experience, more communication in terms of what you got from Dax Hill, which, again, the biggest thing, I know some people are, especially nationally, are like, oh, well, you go from Geno Stone and Jordan Battle to like Dax Hill and Jordan Battle to Von Bell and Geno Stone. Is it really much of an upgrade? Well, it doesn't have to be much of an upgrade for you. It just has to be not allowing multiple explosive plays a game. That's the difference. Like, if you just keep the top on the defense and keep everything in front of you and knock down some of these explosive plays, especially those that resulted in easy touchdowns for you, then that alone, you don't have to be worlds better than them. You just have to not be as bad as Nick Scott and also not allow 20 plus explosive plays there. And I think that's something you are going to get out of Geno Stone, out of Von Bell, out of Jordan Battle, and all those guys rotating back there.
The disc golf dad asked, who is our biggest roster surprise? He said for him, it's I don't want to make his name into Swiss cheese, but the Vashana Maxwell. He said
Devon Shaw.
Devon Shaw, is that how you say his name? Devon Shaw. That's a tongue twister for me. But Devon Shaw Maxwell, he says, who will be a stud pass rush specialist. Do you guys have anybody? I mean, it's a little early, but do you have anybody that maybe you think could make the team that you think could shock or surprise?
Yeah, I mean, maybe he pushes Zach Carter over the back of that defensive tackle rotation.
Mm-hmm.
He was an older guy, productive at a small school, Chattanooga and FCS, but was very productive there, especially in his last 2 years, which is what you want to see out of the small school guys. Maybe they decide that they've seen enough out of Zach Carter. I struggle to see that just because of his versatility at D end and D tackle. I say that very lightly. I don't think he does it well, but he can do it. So I think that might save him. But honestly, man, we talked about the bloodbath you're going to have. You're going to have a tough time breaking the top 5 or 6 at wide receiver, right? You're going to have a tough time unseating that back end corner spot for either Mike Hilton's role, reserve role, or the outside boundary corner role, right? Safety, especially too. So considering how deep you are at so many of these different spots, I think linebacker is squarely the only spot that I see on the roster where you don't have a logjam or interior offensive line, and you just have a much better chance of hitting on like an undrafted linebacker or a low round linebacker as opposed to interior offensive line.
I have an idea. There is a guy that I think could oh man, I can't believe I'm about to say this because I felt like I was on this hill last year, and I was Jeff Gunter. Jeff Gunter.
You got this one.
I just think that there's a way that they can slot him in as a. He was remember when he played at what was his university? Coastal Carolina. He was played. He was used as a drop back linebacker at points and times. I just think that nasty. Yeah, it was scheduled there, but he would pass the rusher. He rushed the passer. He was one of the best pass rushers.
Sometimes he passed the rusher too.
Yeah, that happened too. But Jeff, if we're going to our way too early shockers to make the roster, give me Jeff Gunter.
Yeah, I mean, just to throw out 2 names. Evan brought him up a little bit earlier. Jackson Kirkland, I think, is a guy, we haven't really addressed an interior offensive line.
Yes.
Kind of had some, some versatility as well, played some tackle in college as well. Just, again, you're talking about back end of the roster guy, can play multiple positions on the line. But another guy that I kind of thought Malik might have win here a little bit, but we spent a lot of time talking about the receiver room. And you're looking at that last guy, you're looking at a guy like Trent Irwin. And we talk about how crowded the room is. It's not that Trent Irwin's bad by any means, but where is he going to get on the field?
Yeah.
So if he's not going to be a special teams guy.
Yeah.
But a guy who could, a Shadea Derek Jackson kind of guy. Maybe he can be out there and be a punt
There we
returner.
go.
He can give
There
you
we
more
go.
One of
speed
Malik's
down
guys.
the field.
One of my
There you
guys.
You know
go,
what I mean?
yeah.
He just
You hater.
I'm not a hater. I just know that's your dude.
There's
You
just-
stand on the table,
there's
say
just more
talk or talk.
paths.
Let's go.
There's just more paths to a receiver not named Trent Irwin making an impact in special teams or just, vertically and whatever kind of plays you want to put it than Trent Irwin really would.
I've got one more name, and then we're gonna head out of here, guys. J2 Philly. J2 Philly is a guy. I feel like his name is just kind of like falling under the radar for the Bengals with all the additions the Bengals have had. But this is a guy that showed a lot of flashes at points last year. I wish we would have saw him more on the field a little bit more. But J2 Philly is a guy that I feel very, very, very good about. He's Logan's guy. I think he does offer something in the pass rush department as well, but he's much more of that nose, right, that you're looking for. I
Yeah.
guess he can. I mean, it's a little weird, right?
Yeah.
He can do it, but it's not your traditional necessarily. But yeah, I like J2 Philly a lot, and I think that he may have a leg up a little bit when you consider the fact that he already is familiar with the coaching staff, familiar with the defense, and familiar with his role or what his role could potentially be.
Yep.
One thing's for sure, this is going to be one of the more exciting, camp battles, if you will. The defensive line, the punting battle, the receiving battle. Have we ever come into a season, the secondary battle? Have we come into a
Everything.
season where it's this much competition?
I don't think so.
Shoot, man, I'm about to try out. I'm
Go
about to
for it.
try out and see if I could become the future defensive tackle for the Cincinnati Bengals. Got to pack on some more.
You are
weight, but-
Shaq, remember?
Yeah, I am Shaq already, right? But somebody said, "What do you think about Rocky Lombardi?" Honestly, I don't know who that. I know he's a quarterback, but I got to watch Rocky
He's
Lombardi.
27.
I just think it's going to be hard to, anybody to come in and just replace Jake Browning, especially after you just re-upped with the Bengals too, didn't he? For like 2 years, something like that.
I think Rocky Lombardi is like 26 years old.
Yeah, man. Well, we love you guys, and we appreciate you guys so much for joining us for another episode of State of the Jungle with Malik Wright, presented by First Star Logistics. Once again, thanks to the folks at First Star Logistics. A beautiful studio, our new studio. Hopefully, you guys are loving it as much as we're loving it. The lighting is great in here, and we're just excited for as much content as we have to take you guys through the offseason. Remember, we don't sleep. There is no offseason for us. Every single Wednesday, 7 p.m., same time, same crew. Dan will be back soon, guys. Don't worry. We have a special guest joining us the next 2 weeks, though, on State of the Jungle, one of TWSN's owns, one of my very, very esteemed writers who also did broadcasting for Ohio State. Evan Hartman will be joining us the next 2 weeks here on State of the Jungle, and I'm really, really looking forward to it. I'm looking forward to having him on. But we appreciate you guys for joining us for another episode of State of the Jungle. We hope that you guys like the show. Give this video a like. We went over 200 people. We still only got 58 likes. Give this video a like, subscribe to the channel. And until next time,